Hello, everybody. Welcome to a next Happy Melly competition, which is spread over 3 continents, east to west, from California to India. And today, Andy will introduce the topic on behalf of the person that raised the question, Vanessa, who could unfortunately not be with us. Andy, if you feel like.
So this is a question that Vanessa Shaw, one of our members, added. How do we create enthusiasm for Management 3.0 beyond the Agile community?
Okay, good question.
Yeah, the subdescription, M3.0 is not about Agile. Let's discuss ways to change the conversation, be more inclusive and entice non-Agile /Scrum/Kanban folks to get excited about new approaches to management. So in effect, expanding the conversation outside of IT, outside of Agile frameworks, and making it a new approach to management that can be embraced beyond those sub-communities.
Yeah, okay, good. So shall I just start with what I have been doing? Maybe people can add some ideas on top of that. So with my workout book and Managing for Happiness, the re-release of it, I had already made sure that there is almost no reference to the word Agile or Scrum or Lean or Kanban or whatever in there. I have specifically taken care with my checklists for each chapter that it tries to steer away from Agile-specific terminology. I've already done that for several years. Also with the newest courseware content modules of Management 3.0, there's I think not a single reference to Agile or Scrum anywhere. So I've already invested quite some time of getting rid of the Agile specific branding that naturally has emerged, because that's the community that I have that I hold dear, and where I come from myself. Also, the first book, Management 3.0, was specifically written for software developers and their managers. But many people after that first book said, hey, this is just common sense management leadership stuff. It applies to any creative organization in the 21st century. And I agree. So that's what I did with my book and the courseware later. Doesn't mean that, of course, it will be picked up, or it is being picked up by the non-Agile software world. That takes a bit longer. I definitely hope that with the new book appearing, Managing for Happiness in June, which will be positioned in the business books section and not in the software section, as my first book was, that is going to make a difference for many people in the world who probably have not known of Management 3.0 or me or whatever. They find business books, they look for business books, and one of those business books will be mine. And some will hopefully pick it because it looks colorful and playful, and then they get to know the brand. So that's what I've been doing. And other than that, I depend on organizations that invite me to speak at events, conferences. True enough, that is 80% of the time is Agile software related, maybe 90%. Because I am known in that part of the world. I don't mind, but it is true that we can make a bit more effort to drum the drums elsewhere beyond software. So I think it's a good question that Vanessa asked, and I look forward to hearing some ideas of what we could be doing, not just me, but also our team, what we could be doing, reaching out beyond our traditional community. Because let's face it, also on the Happy Melly Slack channels, I never would use the word Agile or Scrum, but it keeps popping up in the conversations among our members and our readers. Everyone is dragging Scrum and Kanban and SAFe, etc., back into conversations where I think, hey, people, we have other readers here in those channels who have no clue what you're talking about when you refer to safe. So I prefer not to use any of those specific terms, but I'm sure we can do more. And yeah, I hope to have some good suggestions. So if anyone has some, sure.
So I'd like to throw something out to build on what Jurgen just said. So I come from a slightly different quasi-adjacent world. We're coming from the agility world, which is like business agility, organizational agility, and whatnot. And what's very ironic is when we talk to people that are in the agile world, they're in the software world, they hear agility, they think I misspoke. And I said, oh, you mean agile? Well, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But then when you talk to somebody that doesn't know how to write a single line of code and you say agility, it immediately has a different context for them, that they think, I can move faster, I can adapt faster. And it's a more natural conversation for those that are outside of the software world. And so what we're doing is we're actually trying to use a more kind of universal organizational term, agility, and then actually pull the appropriate kinds of things of agile into that world. And the reason why we do that is because we're finding we have to respect the fact that we have to play in their world. Their world is 50-year-old business. They recognize this digital thing that they're trying to get their heads around, and they keep hearing about this agility thing, and they're going, maybe I need to do that. I don't know how. Is it cultural transformation? Is it process transformation? You know, what is going on here? And so we use that as a common base to start the communication language. And then we slowly introduce agile-like terms in there and culture in there. And that seems to make them very comfortable, because then they're not feeling like they're having to start their entire business education all over again from scratch. That's something that's had very, very tiny amounts of success because we've only been pushing it for 6 months or so. But that's been helpful for us is to walk in their shoes.
Yeah, I like that suggestion, Kevin. Thanks. It reminds me of me at least trying to use the language of my audience that I'm trying to address. And even back when I was a manager of software teams, I spoke differently with my software teams as compared with my language that I use with my CEO, even though he was running a software company. You always have to adapt the language and terminology depending on who you're talking to. And for me, indeed, agility makes a lot of sense. It is more generic, more broad than agile, which is often written as with capital A, and it has this very specific meaning. It has a manifesto behind it. People have endless discussions. What does it mean to be agile or to do agile? And it is good to get beyond those discussions because it's always very software specific. I like your suggestion of phrasing it as agility. And also, there are others who that I often call family members in the business world, but they come from different areas, such as design thinking or lean startup or beyond budgeting or holacracy or whatever it is. There are lots of good ideas out there. And some of them have nothing to do with software development per se, and they have different language, different terms, but there is system thinking behind it, there is complexity science behind it, there's human dynamics behind it, so they come obviously to very same or similar conclusions. They often just have not heard of the word agile before, or Scrum, sounds like a software thing. Maybe we just have to keep it a software thing. There's nothing wrong with that, and just switch to other terminology depending on the context. And that's a good suggestion.
Right.
I agree, and my personal experience has reinforced that the terminology either gets in the way and blocks understanding or invites it. And Kevin and I spoke with Vanessa a little earlier today. It was the same thought she had, that when you go into people ops, HR, and you use Agile, the thought is, well, that's for the software teams. You're gonna make me do time box sprints for right? And it completely skews the conversation. So I love the thought of approaching the language that's specific to your audience. I wanted to explore with the group some of the target audiences outside of software that we're working with as we talk about in Management 3.0. Obviously, the human side of the organization, human resources, people ops is one. Has anybody approached other functional areas in a large organization with these ideas? With either success or failure?
With failure. No, I tried once to discuss the things that we do at Man 3.0 with HR, but they were not open for it. I mean, they had a very classical approach and traditional corporate HR vision because of their background. So let's blame it on my change management techniques. I failed. But I also hear stories about companies where software development companies where HR is also in the lead to get rid of yearly review processes and make it much more Management 3.0 like. So but I think the question is for me is how do I get in contact with those people? And I think that maybe for more people because we're all from an IT background. And how do you get in contact with those people? How do you get it in? And of course you need to change the language when you talk with them. I agree, absolutely. But how do you get to talk with them? That's for me the big question first.
Yeah, that's a good question. It reminds me of a comment that I have often heard at Agile conferences or Agile-related conferences where people said, where are all the managers? We should get more managers here at this conference. And then the only kinds of people I see around me are software developers and other hippies that are not the typical kinds of people that managers want to be associated with, at least not the traditional kinds of managers that they wanted to be there. And I mean, I was at an unconference once where we specifically were dancing together. It was quite ridiculous, but also a lot of fun. And at the same time, I said, managers are never going to come to an unconference. Like, are you kidding? We cannot get the managers to join this event. And also, they will not join a typical 2-day course. They go to a golf course. That's the course that they go to. So if you want to address other kinds of or more traditional business layers or departments, you have to be where they are. And I would have to start golfing, picking up golfing, in order to reach out to some of the most important CEOs in the world and not ask them to come to my 2-day class. So is also a way, the challenge of finding out where they are, where they hang out, and how can we join them in their environment where they feel comfortable, and then offer our message in their language. Patrick, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I asked once to our HR department if I could participate in the Management 3.0 course, and the response I got was that there was not a course which was on the list of corporate HR. So I think one of the tricks is that in many corporations there are management development people in the HR department that do negotiations with contractors, that do investigation in the market, which are suitable courses for their managers. And if you don't get on those lists, then it's very hard to enter into the corporate world. But maybe one of the ways is to really start looking at management development companies and see if we can get in there. Another angle might be to see if we can do guest appearances, if you want, for MBAs, where people get trained, so-called, in management skills, but then in an alternative way. And by the way, in Belgium, there's some nice golf courses.
I'm sure there are.
But you have to get on the agenda somehow of the management development teams inside the corporations, if you want to bring this under the attention of managers and want to have a dance party with them. That's it's my personal experience.
Well, you raise an interesting point. We have one first collaboration with a content distributor who offers content to lots of corporations around the world in form of online courses, and they made their own online course based on my books, and they paid some fee for that, of course. And that is a way to get into a number of companies that I would otherwise not have reached. Basically what you're pointing out is that there are channels. There are channels that already reach into HR departments, into management layers in lots of organizations, and we need to figure out what those channels are, those traditional channels, and feed them the medicine through the traditional tubes, basically, that are already in place, instead of trying to get other tubes connected to the patient, which is much more of an effort. That requires some investment in business development and scouting of the terrain of content distribution and the training industry.
But is it maybe also not that way, and I find it hard to accept, and I don't want to accept, but that we are maybe going too fast, or maybe too, call it. It took Agile 15 years to become where it is today. I mean, Management 3.0 started 4 years ago. So it's realistic to expect we are as far as Agile is today with Management 3.0. I mean, we should try to speed it up, but on the other hand, it is also a huge world outside that we like to change.
Yes. Well, indeed, two things, Ralph. As some people keep pointing out, Scrum started in 1995, something like that.
Yeah.
And now it seems to be crossing the chasm, which is like 20 years later. It took a while, even though the growth seems quite spectacular. It's still a spectacular growth within software in the last 10 years, not the first 10 years. And then beyond software, they just got started. So indeed, it takes a while. On the other hand, penetration of new ideas goes faster nowadays. I mean, the pace at which the first iPod was picked up was slower than the pace at which the iPhone was picked up, and the iWatch will be faster. So you see this acceleration of the adoption curve at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't think we need to wait 20 years, hopefully.
Right, yeah. 10 would be nice.
Well, can I comment?
Yes, Ivo.
Yes, so this is my first time, so it's very interesting to hear what you're talking about. And so
you're welcome.
back to the thank you. So back to the previous topic. I once tried to do a retrospective with HR about their work, but it failed.
Oh, why did it fail?
Well, I tried it once, then I kind of showed the whole process and the benefits for them, but somehow it died in a natural way, so they didn't get it. But yeah, well, I actually mentioned that this is coming from the software world and from this maybe I shouldn't have done that way. So, but back to the other thing you talked about, the agility and the 50 years old business. So how about that the lean thinking, systems thinking, the lean from Toyota? It's actually pretty old thing, and lately I've been reading this less.works site, which is talk about less framework. I think it has very nice materials about consolidated materials about the lean thinking, system thinking examples. I'm just thinking maybe this is the way to how to approach organizations, not to mention Agile, but talk about lean, about Toyota production system and all those things. Because this is about the value streams, about the ordinary people, continuous improvement, kind of just leave Agile behind, just talk about those things. I don't know. The other thing, yeah.
Yes and no. I agree that the lean brand is more popular outside of software development, in manufacturing particularly. And the word also seems to appeal to some parts of the business world more than the agile word. Maybe because it is older, it has a longer history to get where it is now. But on the other hand, I find that lean is often very much associated with the concept of removing waste and optimizing your value stream if you already know what you're trying to deliver to a customer. Or you're trying to figure that out as soon as possible, as with lean startup, and then if it's not working, you pivot, and then again, if it's working out, you try to optimize your value stream. It is very product focused, and for good reason. I mean, with every brand, method, framework, etc. out there, you have to have some specific focus. With Management 3.0, it's clearly people focused. It is all people stuff, because that is what the others leave lying untouched, basically. Agile is more people focused. I find, at least the discussions that I see usually at conferences, a bit more than with lean, which is a bit more process, but that may be just my perception. But I specifically want the people stuff to be communicated to organizations, and so I feel more comfortable personally with the Agile or the Agility Association, and maybe than with lean. But you're right that it has a rich history. It goes back to decades before we even got started. Andy.
Hey, Lenny. Good to see you. So I want to circle back to the question of how do we create enthusiasm in 2.0. And Patrick, you talked about sort of the organizational constraints and bringing it top down through existing pipelines. I'm using a different approach. I don't know if it's faster or slower. I work within software teams, but I introduce some of the experiments not in the terminology of Agile, and I invite other people in from other parts of the organization to participate or observe. Value building, skills matrix. And people look at that and they begin to see from their own lens, wow, oh, so skills matrix isn't just that technical programming skill, you're doing soft skills. And the people ops go, I can see how this might be useful for the marketing team. The same with some of the other experiments that we do. So visibility, engagement, and a little bit of success is beginning slowly, much more slowly than I'd like, to build some interest and a little bit of enthusiasm outside of the IT department in my small tribe.
How about, I also need to say recently have paid more attention to that. How about visualizations or visual approach to the other people, to the way people do, and kind of tool of engagement? Maybe I'm not bringing in something new and fresh, but I kind of, in my experience, I kind of understood that if you, in a skilled way, use some visual metaphors or visualizations in the way you communicate, solve problems, it really works. It really helps. It engages people. It increases enthusiasm, I would say, if you do it in a repetitive way, of course, not like one-time event. But that's what I'm trying to do in my software team now. Kind of teach people and show that we can do meetings also in a visual way, and those become more interesting. And what I hear in retrospectives, I'm so proud about it that sometimes people in retrospective say that, yes, we liked those meetings. The developers like meetings, and say, yeah, I did it. So I don't know, maybe that's the kind of a tool which is I would like to learn it more. So there are a few books I would like to read. So that's my opinion. So
Yeah.
A question for you, Ivo, is how do you make that visible? Your visible tools. How do you make that visible to people outside of your immediate team? Because I think that would help propagate what you're doing and build more enthusiasm. How do you share?
well, we have a company wiki. Now we are building the Slack as well, just the first months, and I'm sharing around in the wiki and kind of trying to show this to other teams and talk about it, and in the kitchen or so. But yeah, I haven't done a lot, but so I've at least experienced that this works to some degree. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The word that came to my mind, excuse me, Jurgen, was to be an M3.0 virus inside an organization. It has bad connotations, but maybe we can find a better way of doing it. It's not so much an infection, but it's a inoculation of ideas that could then spread and grow.
Yeah. So, well, the visualization part touches upon the branding. With Management 3.0, I specifically have chosen for a brand that is colorful and visual and playful, and that appeals to some, but it does not appeal to others. I am fully aware of that. And I have chosen to say, okay, well, tough luck for the ones who do not like the way we visualize things and make things playful, because I think they're a dying breed of managers. So either they get it and they switch, or they don't. Is my personal opinion. I'm quite sure we have many more organizations in the future where people know the value of play and visualization. Maybe it just takes a bit more time to wait for such organizations to emerge, and we can help them on that path. But that does make it more difficult to translate or to offer the same concepts and the same colorful workshops to some more traditional organizations, because they see all those silly illustrations and cartoons and something. What is this? Are we going to teach our managers cartoons? This can never be serious. Well, yeah, it's one way or the other. We can also make everything boring, but there is already a lot of boring stuff out there. We're not being remarkable, as Seth Godin says to everyone. Be remarkable, stand out from the rest of the crowd. And our stuff is remarkable in the way we present it. It also makes it more difficult for the ones who do not like remarkable stuff. You just try and Google for management workshops and leadership courses. Everything is gray and dark blue. It's very, very depressing what traditional training companies offer. It makes you want to weep. So that is what they're comfortable with. That is the norm. And yes, we're not following the traditional path. That's for sure.
So Jurgen, I have the solution to that. That's the joy of paper. It has two sides, right? On one side, I have the very dark.
Yeah.
And on the other side, the bright.
All right. All right. Wonderful.
I understand your view, standpoint, Jurgen. I agree with it. But on the other end, what we discussed in the beginning, you need to adjust your message to the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
Here is where we are already starting at the basic, where we don't, on purpose, don't adjust the message for the audience, because, as you said, you will miss out some people who are looking for those books with a lot of words.
I agree. Yeah, you're totally right. And these two seem to be at odds with each other. They're in conflict. How much do you adapt to your audience using their language, using their way to communicate and how to dress and how to behave, etc. Well, on the other hand, you want them to change. You want them to take off the tie, be more colorful, start playing a game together, etc. So there's a difficult paradox here. It's like walking a tightrope, basically. Too much difference, and they won't embrace it. to a little difference, and you don't stand out from the rest of the muck. That I agree, that makes it difficult. But personally, I prefer to choose in terms of visualization and playfulness. I prefer to stay close to our roots, our nature. But in the words that we use, like Scrum or Safe or whatever, prefer to use terminology that is familiar to them, like add a couple of times return on investment and core competencies and things like that. And, they know what those terms mean. And that maybe helps to sell the colorful message a bit better, because the colors are around the familiar words, so to speak. That's my guess.
I think in the end it's also getting out of that comfort zone, because I cannot believe that everybody likes that gray, blue business stuff.
Right, and I'm relying on that some people don't like that. Yes,
you have to get them in. But in the business model generation world, there's one of those types of business models that's called bait and hook. So maybe we should do some marketing in black and white, and once they're in, you show them the colors. Yeah, you can escape. Have you in the room, door closed, and pull up.
Yeah.
Rewrite your book. Ask Wiley to put the first 2 chapters in black and white, and only when
that's
3. People in somehow, no? And I think that's the essence. If you want to go beyond a community, if you want to introduce something like this in a new community or a broader community, is how do you get in? Because once you're in, you can use all the colors you want. So I showed it. No, you show the people your business card. It's black and white. They say, "Welcome, come talk with us." You keep it a little bit black and white, and once they are there, they say, "Okay, we sign here." Then the colors can pop out, and you turn around to the card. Oh, by the way, it's about this. No, it's the colors of
yeah. Well, that's definitely food for thought.
I like the tactics.
I don't recall who was that who said it, but it was simple like that. That there is no resistance to change. All you need to do is to make it attractive. So basically, yeah, that's probably. So I need to find some different things attract different people. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's all marketing, it's all branding, it's all communication. That's true. But we made great progress so far. I mean, the brand is still growing. The number of facilitators, workshops keeps growing. I am in India now, where there's a lot of interest. That's an interesting part of the world, India. Very traditional kind of organizations here that the people here at the Agile conference in Gurgaon tell me about. It's very difficult to be agile, but it's happening, and they also see that the management and HR and everything else needs to change, and it's probably going to take more than another 10, maybe 20 years, but they are making progress. So we just need to be there. I think that is the most important thing, perhaps, to be there when people are ready to embrace the new ideas, new ways of running their organizations. Then it should be obvious to them to pick Management 3.0 as an option instead of the traditional curriculum that they had in their portfolio for dozens of years. And but some companies are simply not ready for that. But we have to admit that too. No matter how much you adopt your language, they will simply reject the ideas. That's better to focus on the early adopters, not the late majority.
But is that not the difference? You mentioned management and HR. Is not that you should just focus on management and let HR be as it is, and in the end they will move on. But they will also change because have changed. I mean, I think there are 2 different things. If you can make all the managers aware of Management 3.0 and get them in that mindset, then in the end, HR will also move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. And sometimes start with HR and not with management. I've been at some companies where HR have renamed themselves to people support, for example. and they were very forward-thinking people working at companies that were named as best places to work in their country, for example. And the HR got it. So it doesn't, it's different per organization, I would say. Sometimes it's the teams that get it first. Sometimes it's HR leading the way, even with some more traditionally thinking teams who still expect their requirement studies, perhaps. And sometimes you just have a very modern CEO who says, this is the way we're going to do things around here, where everyone will be agile tomorrow. Go for it. It can be. There's no standard rule book, no standard transformation guide, I'm afraid.
How did that Big Bang work? Right. Everybody will be agile tomorrow.
Well, everyone should start learning tomorrow how to be agile. I think that is definitely a good message, and you cannot change an organization overnight, obviously, but you certainly can start drilling the message in overnight, and then guide people along. There's great stories about that in Frédéric Laloux's book of Reinventing Organizations, where he shows that CEOs have done these things in companies. Actually, Laloux thinks you can do it otherwise than with top management on your side. I do not fully agree with that. I think it can emerge elsewhere. Ultimately, of course, CEO or top level has to be convinced as well. But I think you can make quite a groundswell in any organization and have the top management as the late majority, or maybe even the laggards in the transformation. I think that is possible, although more difficult, obviously.
Well, an idea came to my mind. So to the basics of today's question, maybe I've missed that, but is there any success of management 3.0 at universities, and where the new people study things and learn management?
Well, good question. I think I've had 2 or maybe 3 messages of teachers at either universities or not high schools, but the other variant. I forgot the name.
University of Applied Science.
Yeah, so things like that. It happens, but it's always at an individual level, like a teacher coming across the materials and then say, oh, this is good stuff. I'm going to use it and make it part of my broader curriculum. Because we don't offer a full curriculum for an entire class for a year or something. That's not the extent of the materials that we have. But there's definitely some use there. But not in a way that is like, say, this university is using M3O throughout their school or whatever. No, I've never heard of that.
Maybe looking forward in a longer term, this is where we should focus on, actually. Because I think that still many universities are also producing old-fashioned thinking in management. So maybe this is where to start promoting this management 3.0 to care more about the future, so that the new people who came out of these schools are actually have learned something different about management, because it's probably easier, I would say, than trying to change some big old-fashioned organizations of these days. Maybe just some are unchangeable, just we should let them go so they die in a natural way. But what we could do more about trying to invest this in the future managers or future CEOs, just an idea.
Yeah, well, you're not the first one with the idea, Ivo. It's a good idea, but on the other hand, nobody has ever been able to explain to me what how to pay a team with that effort, what the business model is behind it, because the schools don't really have the money that corporations have, and we have a team to support and content developers to pay, etc. And then it makes sense to go after the market, where a price is paid for the value that we deliver that is different from what universities would offer, and it's very, very a different kind of model. I would think, trying to address all the universities in the world. My God, how many are there? Tens of thousands. We have 12 people on our team.
Yeah.
Where do you begin? I haven't. And also check how many managers there are in organizations and how many of them come from a university where they were taught management. That's a very, very small percentage. It's like approaching zero, I think. So I don't think the effect, the investment will be large, and I think the return on investment will be rather small. So I think actually the universities, if I have seen it from the sidelines, change their curriculums based on what happens in the market. Like they teach lean and they teach the balanced scorecard and they teach such things when they have become successful in the market and proven their worth. And then universities pick it up and start to make it more academic in nature. So we have to prove more, I think, as a brand in the corporate world, and then the university will pick it up as well, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, it would be good if we were there. Like when the boys and girls are still young, it is better to feed them.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
You're definitely right there. You know. All right. Well, it's nearly 45 minutes already. Anyone has some last wise words for me and my team?
Patience.
Patience. Thank you, Ralph. I like that. I like that.
Awesome.
But I hope with the Managing for Happiness books that we will be entering a new era. At least different people will get to know our materials, that's for sure. It's unclear whether they will be 100 or 100,000 or 10 million. I don't know. Let's hope it's possible. But we will be reaching out to very different people, and hopefully that will have an effect also on our courseware and the workshops that we're doing all over the world. Ralph.
Yeah, one practical thing I think that we maybe can improve. Google has a great website called Work at Google or Rework at Google, where you can all find the best practices that they're applying. Great website. Management 3.0 has a resource hub, and with all the events that we have, all the practices that we have, all the exercises, games, etc., ideas. And at the end of every page, there is a list of implementations of blogs, people who used it. Maybe we should try to do something with that. Make the resource up a separate website, or make it bigger, or make it more visible, because that's where HR can come, where everybody can come to look at how do I use it? How do I apply it? And there were some great examples, I think, how you can apply Management 3.0.
Yeah, that is exactly that is on our agenda all the time. This month, I'm going to work with Jennifer, our amazing marketer, updating the pages on the website to make it more consistent with the new book, because there are lots of links on the book to the resource hub. Make them up to date. There are still plenty of stories missing that I have in my database that are not yet on the website, so we make that more up to date. And true, then the resource hub should really be a resource hub where people come to learn more about celebration grids. What are the ways people use this idea, or better meetings, or delegation board, whatever they want to know about. I think it's good to have it on a Management 3.0 website. It's an idea to have it elsewhere, but then you basically start from scratch with Google rankings, etc. That will be Jennifer would kill me if I would suggest that, I'm quite sure. But we will definitely exploit the resource hub a bit more, and make sure the word Agile and Scrum is like somewhere hidden down there at one of the more obscure pages. I mean, we love the Agile stuff, we love Scrum stuff, but we have to move beyond that. I very much agree with Vanessa on this topic, and also that's also one of the reasons why I showed up, because it's a matter dear to my heart. All right, good. Well, 45 minutes are up. That is our usual time box. If I remember well, I haven't attended any recent coffees with Patrick and Andy because I've been traveling all the time. But I think we had some good discussions on this topic. Back to you, Andy and Patrick.
Yeah, so you're right. Time boxing is up. Again, people, this recording will make it available on YouTube, so everybody that didn't join can have the chance to look at the discussion and to provide additional ideas if they occur, or to dig into the ideas that have been said here. And we will continue the discussion on Slack for sure. But thanks all for joining. Enjoy the night, the day, the morning, the afternoon. And see
Thanks
you.
Thanks for the contributions, Ralph, Ivo, Kevin, Lenny. Very much appreciated.
Good weekend, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.